Welcome back to our second channel, Tackling the World. And today we're going to be explaining to you how to get started on a van build. If you guys are trying to make one, hopefully this video will be helpful for you guys. And we're just going to explain how we did it and the order that we did it in, things of that nature.
I always see it in the comments, like,
okay,
how did you guys know how to start? How do I start my build? A lot of people usually ask that. So I think our first advice is watch a lot of videos. That's something we did before we even started planning for a van. We were just really into like van builds.
Van builds and van tutorials.
Yeah.
You just want to figure out what you like.
And our van build design currently doesn't even look like our very first. Before we followed basically the steps we're going to give you.
Oh yeah.
It was like the layout, or like this would be cool, and then
oh yeah, we drew it on a whiteboard and we kind of was like, oh, we should have this lifted floor and then do like this bed that's transformed into
the dinette, the open. Yeah, because we liked how open it felt, but then we realized like it's not going to work. That's our first advice, is watch a ton of videos and then just keep watching more of them.
And there's an endless amount of videos to watch on YouTube.
Yeah. I think the next step is choosing a vehicle. And to do that, you kind of have to ask yourself, what kind of camper are you? Are you going to be a full-time camper, a part-time camper, or just like a weekend camper?
And the way we chose our Sprinter, it was hard to find anything used. And all the vans that were used at the time were pretty expensive, and a new van was costing, it was a used van was costing close enough to a new van that I said, why would I get a used one with 150,000, 200,000 miles on it when I can just get a brand new one with 0 miles and for not that much more money, maybe 10 more grand. And that to me was worth it to buy a new one. So that's why we decided. We went to the San Francisco dealership, Mercedes-Benz dealership, and I chose the Sprinter, the Mercedes Sprinter, because it's diesel, and I figured it would run a little bit more efficiently with the diesel, and instead of the Ford Transits, which are all gas. And we have the 2-wheel drive. We thought about going with the 4-wheel drive. Is like $30,000 or $40,000 more. And I was like, yeah, that's not worth it either, because I can. I'll explain about this later, the tire stuff. I couldn't really bite the bullet on that one. You know what I mean? So, yeah, so that's what we decided. That's how we ended up with a 2020 Sprinter 2-wheel drive.
Yeah, we did some research too, and it kind of seems like people think that Sprinters will last longer. So that was like one of the reasons we went with it. But I will say, if you get like a ProMaster, the walls are straight.
It
makes it a little easier.
It's a little complicating to do these arching walls.
And the other thing about choosing a vehicle is you have to ask yourself where you're going to be going. Are you going to be going out to the middle of nowhere? Are you just going to be going to campsites? Or are you a stealth camper? If you're going to be going out into the middle of nowhere, like Forest Service roads that are pretty in deep, I do not recommend an RV. It's not going to work.
Oh, you mean like a big RV?
Yeah, because sometimes people if you're watching this, you're probably set on a van, but just in case.
Just hard to turn around sometimes in a lot of those places where it's only like enough space for one vehicle each direction. And a lot of those roads, you end up, with a big RV, you'll get stuck. So
we almost actually went with the extended Mercedes Sprinter. And there's been a couple spots where we go to where I don't think we could have made a U-turn. Because it's super tight. And the extended it seems nice because it has so much more space. We did test drive it in San Francisco, and I was like, yeah, this is too big. The extended one is not going to fit in a regular parking space. This does, which I love. And for that reason, I was like, we don't think we need that extra space. We can go with the regular 144. I think being able to fit into a parking spot was kind of important to us. We knew we would be in cities sometimes, especially to get our groceries, because we like going to like Asian markets, which tend to be small parking lots in a city, which an extended van just wasn't going to work. Less stressful. Also, if you're doing stealth camping, it might be a little harder to do in an RV or one of those, like, what are they called, the trucks with the RV in the bed? And they have a pop-up one. Yeah, someone's going to notice you if you're trying to pop your RV up in a neighborhood. So if you're planning to do a lot of stealthing, I would kind of recommend the van. Our next step is designing the layout. And when it comes to creating your layout, you're going to want to do a layout that you need, not necessarily what you want. And by that I mean sometimes you design a layout that you like visually a lot, but you're not really thinking of it practically, of like all the things that you need to be able to fit.
Okay, that's functional.
Yeah. So you need functionality more than what looks pretty. And you're going to want to make a list of everything that you need to be able to fit into your van. And this is kind of the list that helped us realize that that very first original layout was not going to work.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the big items, like, are you into mountain biking? Do you need to be able to mount your bike somehow on the exterior and the interior? Do you have your surfboards? Like, there's people have a lot of hobbies, and you need to have space. If you're someone who doesn't really have hobbies and you're just more of a hiker, well, there's some people who, you know, they're just working from their van, and you know, they live in the city, and so they can like go places within the city to entertain themselves. But if you're super outdoorsy, you have all these outdoor activities, you really need to think of like where you're going to put that stuff. And is it going to be secure if you put it on the outside?
For that reason, I knew I was going to have quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted like this garage space, right? The trunk space, because we do take a lot of stuff. You know, coolers, our outdoor stove, chairs, and outdoor table, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Fishing gear as well.
Yeah, so, the rods. Yeah, you can't really... You don't want to put that outside too often. If you have really big things that you need to put into your van, that usually means you're not going to be able to have the dinette, like open layout that we were talking about earlier, just because you're going to need that garage space. For the layout, now you also have to think of what exactly do you want in your van. Do you need a full kitchen? Do you need a bathroom? I think everyone needs a bed.
For us, you need a bed, right? So do we want a fixed bed, or do we want some kind of adjustable bed that we can move out of place? And with a lot of those, the bed conversions, it takes 2 minutes or, a few minutes, which is kind of tasking for every day. And, you got to make the bed or whatever. And I figured out this one that I did was the most efficient, and this kind of like was inspired by a guy I saw on Instagram.
Personally, I think you should have a bathroom in your van, just because...
She loves it.
If you're stealth camping and you need to use the bathroom, that's going to be kind of hard. It's not like you can just walk out of your van and just pee there.
Yeah.
Like you can in nature.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the times where like you really need a toilet. And if you're a woman, it's a little more difficult to pee into a bottle. And I don't know, the idea of having a lot of pee bottles in your van grosses me out, but everyone has what they can put up with, I guess. When you're doing your van layout, you're going to want to think about weight distribution. So we have our electrical on one side and our plumbing on the other side to kind of balance it out. You don't want to put everything on one side.
I guess what people tend to do is, since the driver's side you have the whole space, and since you don't have a door there, you end up putting a ton of counter space, a ton of stuff on just that one side, and then not enough on the right side. So you're kind of driving a little quick kid, right?
You're going to want to write down measurements for your layout, and then using those measurements, you'll want to make a little box for it.
The box for is actually really, really useful. So when the van was completely empty, and I was just I just had to visualize it, and like, oh, how would this be here? But it's hard to do that. Yeah. It's hard to really get a feel for the space.
And we even did the whole tape thing that everyone suggested.
Oh, on the floor.
Yeah, so you can like visualize it. But
no, we did that, and that helps a little bit. We have this kind of much space here in the hole, and blah blah blah. But the cardboard boxes, that was legit. That was like I'm so glad I did that, because I decided after doing that, I think the couch and stuff was going to be up a little bit further. But after I did that, I was like, oh, you know what? We actually have a lot more space that we can actually, pull it back a little bit more.
Yeah, I think we made this little part a little longer because we realized we could use another 2 inches. And it also gives you a good visual for this part. I think like the opening. Because I have seen builds where they make this a lot wider, and then it's very, very narrow. Like one person
only
barely,
one person fits,
and that feels a little claustrophobic, but if you're cool with it, you know, the layout's what you need and what you want.
Once you kind of have an idea of the layout, I also drew out the layout on paper as well. What was going to go here, what was going to go there. There was a little adjustment after that, but from that drawing, to this, it's pretty close. It's pretty close.
The next step in your van build is electrical. And one of the first things that you're going to want to do with electrical is make a list of all the appliances that your van's going to need.
It's mostly DC 12 volt and a little bit of AC. We use the induction cooktop, which is AC, and then sometimes I need to charge a drone, charge a laptop, that's also AC as well. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, AC, DC, then there's a lot more research to do. But in general, I'll tell you, you don't really need that many AC outlets. We have one, and it's completely fine. It's going to be 90% of it is going to be DC, where you're going to list lights. Fridge is DC for us at least, and then we have a DC water heater, which is very nice, and water pump, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you'll really have to figure out how much power you're going to need in your van, so you can decide how many batteries you're getting, how many solar panels you're getting.
And we have 400 amp hours of lithium batteries, which seems it's good. It's I think it's the right amount to have. Yeah. And it's not like overkill where we only use a little bit of it, but it's also, not too little that we are always running out of battery.
You'll want to incorporate where your outlets are going into your design. So if you have a lot of like kitchen appliances, I've seen people with their like coffee stuff, their oven, blenders. Some people have a lot. Basically, you're going to want to think of where you're going to put those outlets to make it convenient for cooking, because you don't want to have an outlet say like here, but you're cooking over there. Put all the outlets into your design, figure out what's the most practical place to put them. And when you're running your wires, it is better to have more wires than not enough. So I think we have 2 extras just in case.
I think we have more than 2.
More than 2? Okay. Yeah, so we have a couple extra ones just in case we change our mind and need to add another thing. It'll be so much easier to have an extra couple wires if you need them versus not having them and then having to like tear your walls apart to get in there. And you'll want to label all of your wires. You don't want to have wires and you're just like, what is this one for? Yeah, so label them.
I guess the hardest thing about electrical is like knowing how much you're going to use, because living in the house, you're on grid, you don't really think about that. You don't really think how much does this appliance draw. We never think about that in the home. If you're going to be in the van, and if you have an induction cooktop, or even if you don't, at least 200 amp hours of lithium.
Next, you're going to want to do insulating and flooring. We originally wanted to do, what was it, the hemp wool? Sheep's hemp wool?
Oh yeah, sheep wool.
Yeah. What you're going to find when you're doing your van build is a lot of things are on back order.
Yeah, back order, sold out.
So once you have your layout on lockdown, start buying everything you need if you can. Because I think our windows took 3 months. And that was one of the things we wanted to do first, but we had to wait until like in the middle of our layout.
Yeah, luckily the big window doesn't really matter when you put it in.
Yeah, the big one didn't really matter.
Yeah. The thing about the windows, we do have them, but a lot of times we have them covered.
Yeah, that's true. For privacy.
So I don't think you should put too many windows in your van. Like one big one and maybe 1 or 2 little ones. And we have just one big one and one little one.
You could probably survive without a window.
Yeah, you could definitely. You don't need it, because a lot of the times when we park up and if it's daytime, we just open the entire door, and that's a big window itself.
After you're done with your insulation, which also includes insulating the floor plus the subfloor, you're going to want to figure out what you're going to do about your flooring. And you'll see people doing 2 things. Either they're going to put their flooring down immediately and just build on top of that, and it makes things super easy, but you are running the risk that at some point your flooring might, it basically warps. No, because it expands a little bit.
Expands and
yeah, so that causes things to kind of move up if it's underneath the cabinets. But it doesn't necessarily always happen. There's people I followed who've never had the issue, and they're going on like 5 years of van life, and then there's other people I've seen within 1 year they're having some issues with their floor. So that's kind of like the risk you're taking, but it does make life so much easier to put it underneath. And we've had it for a year, and so far no problems. Next, you're going to want to do your building materials. So you'll want to figure out if you're going to use only wood or if you're going to use 80/20, which we kind of recommend 80/20.
80/20 is expensive, but I think now that I use it, I think it was worth the money for sure. I mean, wood is getting expensive anyways, so if it doesn't make too much of a, budget difference for you, then for sure the 80/20. I'm so glad I did that, because I was gonna go wood. I was started making stuff off wood. This is all wood because this is like one of the first things I built. After that, I started using 80/20, and I didn't go back.
Yeah, it's super easy to work with.
Yeah.
And then he basically just has to hand me over the 80/20 and I can screw everything on.
Mm-hmm.
So sped up the process a bit.
Yeah, and the 80/20 allows for mistakes too, because you can just,
readjust.
That doesn't fit. You can just unscrew it without damaging the piece.
Yeah, there was a couple times with the 80/20 where I put the screw in the wrong place, but it was an easy, like, unscrew, slide it over, rescrew.
Super easy to work with. I do highly recommend it. It's strong, it's aluminum, so it doesn't rust either, and it's very
Super
lightweight as well.
Yeah.
So highly recommend that.
When you're choosing your wood, always check for warping, because Home Depot doesn't always have the best quality wood. Even when we went to a wood store, sometimes we end up with kind of like wonky pieces.
Like a 2x2 isn't actually 2 inches by 2 inches. It's like 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches.
Yeah, which I didn't know before we started this.
Yeah, I knew that because I built like tables and stuff. But yeah.
If you've never built anything.
Yeah, if you've never touched wood before, if you never actually measured a piece of 2x2 or 2x4, it doesn't measure out to those exact measurements.
Miscellaneous tips. After you're finished with your build, think about how much weight was added, because you might need to adjust your shocks. And we didn't do that yet, but there's some things that we're going to add to the van that we think makes it necessary now. Because there's going to be a lot more. Suspensions. Yeah, suspensions.
Our suspensions with this weight, it's fine now. But if we add several more things, heavy stuff, then we're going to need it.
One thing we are currently trying to figure out, so we changed our tires and they are bigger and better. And the only thing is, an extra tire does not fit where the spare tire goes. So we have to find a new place to put it, which we were going to put on the ladder, but turns out we need a special ladder.
It's a different ladder than the one we have.
Yeah, so if we take that ladder out, we're going to have a hole in our door.
Which I guess it can be.
Yeah, it may not be a big deal, but if you're going to add bigger tires, consider that in your build. I think it'll make things easier to just buy the right ladder.
If I would have gotten the ladder with the thing to attach the tire, it would have been much easier, simpler. These new tires that we have now, yes, they are better in certain ways, but there is one big drawback. When we had the original tires, the wheels, we were getting about 19 miles per gallon, and now we get about 16, so 3 miles less. But I do like them. They do look sick, and they do well in all terrain.
And if you're new to van building, which if you're watching this you probably are, when you're watching tutorials from other people on how to do something, watch more than one tutorial, because most of us who are doing our van builds, we're not experts. We're just watching each other. So always double check with multiple videos to see if that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we'll always cross-reference.
There are a couple people who are actually professionals who have videos, so you could probably trust them.
And we talk like we know what the hell we're talking about, but in reality, this is our only build that we've done, and it's been successful, so we're just passing on some information, I guess. Yeah.
That's why the videos we did of our van build, it was more of like, this is how we're doing on our, and not so much a tutorial, because we're not experts and we don't want to tell you guys like this is how it must be done, because we've never done this. But worked out pretty well. If you need more in-depth stuff, we have tons of videos. Most of those videos we do link who we got ideas from, and if I can find them, I'll put them in the description of like who we use for electrical and plumbing, those kinds of things. Just videos and references that really helped us online.
But we are proud to say we did the build 100% on our own.
Yeah. Alright guys, so that's going to be everything for this video. Just a quick little overview. And if you need more in-depth stuff, you could check out some of our other videos. And thank you guys for watching. See you on the next one.